Hey, what's going on, everybody? Sorry we're a tad bit
What's
late.
up?
Hopefully, everybody is enjoying their Sunday. This is going to be a really, really special. We got a delay. Hold up. Gotta love it when things are set up perfectly fine and then go live and it's kind of scramble.
I goes,
Testing, testing. You hear me now?
yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear
All right.
me?
Yep, crystal clear. So, let's get this. Nope, I still got feedback. So, Darren, go ahead and head up the intro so we could bring in QB. It's my audio.
QB tells and scales. He's into ball pythons and also bearded dragons. He has a YouTube channel, man. I mean, kind of been watching him, seeing him pick up some of these ball pythons and doing some of the auctions. Um, he's picking up some heat. I like what he's doing. Starting to build his own facility, which is big. That's big. So he's hitting it hard. Can you hear me? Or you lost me, Will? I can't hear you. There we go. Can you hear me? I can't hear anything.
I can't hear him. Oh, there.
I can't hear him at all. I
It's
can hear
weird.
you.
Echo.
There it goes. You're getting an echo? But I don't hear an echo on this end.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it sounds clear. Does it sound clear to you?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome. As long as we good to go. So, QB, tell us a little bit about yourself because I'm excited about this.
All right. I don't know where to start. I guess a little bit about myself. I'm not American. I guess that's the first thing. So technically, QB is not really. It doesn't stand for anything, right? A lot of people are like, "Oh, were you like a quarterback in high school or something like that?" Had nothing to do with that, right? So I used to, before I actually like got a business name and everything like that, my Instagram tag used to be QBAAN for Cuban, right? And for some reason, people just stuck with the QB at the beginning, and it was QB Dragons after that, and it was QB's Tails and Scales when I finally got into ball pythons, but QB has no meaning whatsoever, but it's stuck, so I just keep using it. Maybe one day it'll go away, but it's been, I think, like 11 years, and I still have QB.
Oh my, you solved a mystery for us because we were doing all our background and research. We're like, wait, there's no way. Is he Spanish? Like, what? What's
Yeah.
going
Because of your last name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's been an interesting topic. Every time I meet somebody, they're like, "Hey, what's this QB stand for?" I'm like, "You wouldn't believe it if I told you." Like, it means nothing. It means nothing whatsoever. That's crazy.
All right, audio is perfect now. Thank goodness. But so tell us a little bit about your journey. We've only been doing it, here at Flawless for literally 2 years now. Darren's the lifer. He's been in it literally over a decade. He's probably like our father's age. But tell us a little bit about how long
This dude's in his 40s. Don't worry.
So I think it was 2012. I actually started working at a pet store. And it was just like a local pet store. It was very like small mom and pop pet store. I didn't really know anything going in there. I have had fish, I've had dogs, and that's all I've had to the extent of pets. Okay. I get into this pet store, and obviously I have to learn about everything because nobody tells people like, hey, you're going to be working at a pet store, learn about these fish, learn about these reptiles, nothing like that. I'm sure people realize that when they go to like a PetSmart or whatever. They don't know anything about the things that they're selling. Well, I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to learn everything that I could about everything that I had at that store. And one day, somebody brings in a bearded dragon, just says, my kid don't want this no more. That's it. Drops it off. Most pet stores have a policy where they can't keep anything. So I actually just took it home. And that was, like I said, 2012, 2011 or something like that. And literally like 2 weeks later, somebody else did the exact same thing. And I ended up with a male and a female bearded dragon just off the back, just like that. And it's been a journey ever since. Yeah, it's crazy.
That was at the time the other fall in the market was coming. People started getting rid of animals.
Yep. And there was probably I want to say that second person that dropped off the bearded dragon, he probably had like 3 more. And once he told me like, hey, I'm getting rid of this one, I was like, oh, I'll take him, I'll take him home. And he was like, well, if you're going to take this one, I got 3 more at home. And I ended up with 4 bearded dragons because there was one of them that was a little weird, but I took up with 4 bearded dragons within a span of a month. And literally from there, I've been breeding bearded dragons.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's been in as long as I have.
So way back when, where did you start as far as for your research of your newfound, interest?
It's funny because this mom and pop shop, local pet store, for all of the things that you expect from a big pet store, this one had. Like they had books on books on books in that pet store. People could just come in, read while they're there. They don't have to do nothing, they just take it. So I sat there my entire shift learning about all these different things. And that's literally how I learned about reptiles, was just reading books that were just sitting in that pet store.
Wow, he was getting paid for research.
I was getting paid to just sit there and read a book. Yeah. It was pretty good. It was pretty dope. I mean, it was, like I said, small mom and pop pet store. They didn't really care too much as long as we were actually helping the customers. Right. And it was pretty dope. I'm not going to lie. It made me the person I am today in terms of how I research and how I go. When I go into something, I spend 6 to 12 months before just researching about the genetics, the upkeep, the care, everything that goes into that particular animal before I even decide to buy the first one.
Makes sense. So what, since we'll hang with the bearded dragons for a bit, what lane did you decide to go down once you started breeding and seeing the different, I guess, morphs or lines? How does it work? Yeah, so it's the same. The terminology is the same as with ball pythons. They have dominant, incomplete dominant. They have recessive, same morphs and everything. Whenever I first got into it, the first dragon I had was a hypo citrus, and it had some kind of blue bar. And then the second one I ended up with was a red blue bar. And that was literally like the main stuff back then. There was not too much going on back then in terms of morphs. There was translucent, which was pretty it's still pretty bad now. It's almost like, I don't want to say, it's like spot nose. Like spot nose before, people were like, no, you can't. It's from the spider complex. Yeah. You can't really do too much with it. You can't do spot nose to spot nose. And now people are doing power balls.
Yeah.
So before it was the same thing with translucent. Like you couldn't do anything with translucent. You had to be het to het because it's a recessive. And they were like, you can't do this, you can't do that. And now people are doing visual to het, and it's still causing issues because it's a very weak morph. But back then, you try to get into anything, and everybody tells you, don't do it, which is not much different now. But there's a lot more complexity to it because there's more recessives. But yeah, you try to get into something back then, and they were like, don't do it. So you kind of stick with what is available to the public, which is why I was just sticking with the blue bars, the reds, the yellows, and the hypos. And that's mainly what I got into.
But when you got into it, also you saw the zeros and the Willibits and all those too, huh?
I think it was like 2014 when I got my first Wiblets, and zeros came out around the same time. And the Wiblets, I prefer the Wiblets anyways because they can retain color. So you can pump color with reds and yellows into the offspring, and essentially the Wiblets will retain the color and keep the saturation versus a zero is just plain, which is why I don't like them. Yeah. But I can't say that in front of everybody because they're like, you don't like zeros? How dare you?
Like, which ones really have the genetic defects in them? Because one of them has it.
I don't want to say any particular one of them has a genetic defect. It's more so because people in the bearded dragon community, there's a lot of them that choose to continue line breeding, which after a few generations turns into inbreeding. And that really demolishes the morphs, and the whole line of that particular morph is gone. So then we end up with situations. Well,
Yep.
Oh, what happened?
the internet.
The internet, I guess.
But yeah, I don't know where I was even at actually.
You was talking
You
about breeding, and then it turns into inbreeding.
inbreeding,
Yeah,
once that was the last part.
right. And so what happens with all these morphs and all these lines is that you end up going backwards, where people are now being able to outcross and do it correctly. They're going backwards, and then they're going to have to restart the entire process over. So now with the translucent gene, people are realizing that visual translucent and het translucent are actually starting to have problems again, like we did a decade ago. And now we're having to go back to het in some cases because of how bad the line of the gene is going.
So you don't think that's from people just saying, you know what, I need to get ahead of everybody, so I know I bought these two pairs. Let me just take them together, even though
That's
they're brother
exactly
and
the
sister.
problem. Yep, that's
Mhm.
exactly the problem. And with ball pythons, it's a little bit easier because each ball python, lays one clutch.
Mhm.
Mhm.
With bearded dragons, you're looking at 3 clutches on average. So when you're starting to take parents and siblings and this and putting them together, you're not only just putting the lines back together, the genetic differences between one baby to the other could be so different that when you put them together, there could be some genetic defects over here that aren't showing up because of the fact that the parents are not related, right? But the parents, being that they're all from the same clutch, the genetic defects from one baby won't show up on the next one until you pair them together, and then you get a whole issue out of the offspring, so the third generation.
Wow.
So you're already generations in before you even realize you have an
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah,
Mm.
and that's usually what I tell people. I tell people, hey, you may not have problems with this offspring here if you decide to keep it, but the baby after that, damn well you're gonna have some issues.
It's interesting that you started with the Beardies in that manner. We're really, really deep on the gecko side of the business as well. And I think we kind of avoided some of those issues getting started because we're literally right at around 1,400 geckos right now. But breeders, we may be around 300. And the way we kind of diversified it was when we first started, we were literally purchasing exactly what we wanted from all over. I mean, everybody who had something we wanted, that's how we acquired it. But it allowed us now in the latter years to do breedings, and they be so far from each other that they're literally, there's no, uncles to, nieces or any of that. Because we thought about issues like that may be popping up. So we wanted to try to, I guess, take the best route to avoid that. I'm thankful we did, but I haven't seen very many people complain about those issues, even with crested geckos, because I think also it's frowned upon in the crested gecko community to kind of line breed and inbreed. It's all frowned upon. But I see the similarities.
I think right now the main issue with the bearded dragon community is red monsters came in, and red monsters they were obviously line bred because the only way to get that look from anything is to line breed it. And now people are just breeding red monster to red monster, and a lot of red monsters before were translucent. So now the translucent gene is kind of going away with the red monsters, where you can't really find even a red monster that's not translucent. That's how bad it's getting.
Wow.
Yeah.
You got red monster, you got translucent. What about I have seen leatherback? Is it leatherbacks?
Yeah, leatherback is technically it's an incomplete dominant, but it's a dominant, right? But it acts like an incomplete dominant, where if you were pairing two dominants together, you would get a super look because they would come out with a silky, but the silky itself does not produce 100% leatherbacks. And people frown upon the silkies because they have a lot of health issues and a lot of health requirements that come with it because they have no scales. But leatherback, I think it's one of my favorite morphs in terms of bearded dragons because of how smooth it makes everything.
But the silkies, so when you get basically a silky, it does not produce. So it's not really like a super then.
It's not like a super. That's why I don't like saying it is incomplete dominant because of the way it acts like an incomplete dominant, because it acts like a dominant whenever we're talking in terms of offspring. and it's super cool how it works. It's almost like a polygenic dominant. It's almost like that's what it is,
or like a something that's allelic. So
yeah,
then when they hit
something
back,
like that.
you
Yeah,
get that. But then when you go to breed that, you don't get everything. You
exactly.
get half and half.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's kind of right. Yeah.
Wow.
It's just like allelic. That's pretty cool. At least you won't end up with all those silkies, and then people have other issues. Now you can go either route.
There's like we call. I hate to bring the drama to you guys, but there's like this bearded dragon police that we call it, and there to just be people just going around complaining about everybody's parents and everybody's offspring and everything, and you're just like, go get a life, like go do something else. It's like there's people that are just getting into this and are not realizing that you can't do leatherback to leatherback, and they accidentally do it, or there's somebody that wants a pet silky, and they ask somebody, and then they're like, you know what, for $200 I'll do it. And then they go do it and then realize that it's not worth it because it comes with all this drama and baggage on the other end. So that happens a lot.
Wow.
And it used to, in every industry, I think you always had that. We had that in the ball pythons, but now I think we're at the point where it's like we're the older brother and don't care. So if you did it, whatever, we just laugh about it. Versus other groups kind of like, man, why are you doing this? And everybody wants to police that. Because when I got into the ball pythons, it was that way. Everybody was it was drama after drama after drama. Now it's like,
but I think when you got in though, it not trying to be funny, seriously, but it was before the big internet boom, where it was a lot of word of mouth and you telling people how to do it or what not to do. But now you have so many resources online, like somebody with 10 followers or no followers, they could put content out quickly to the internet, and we can choose as consumers to absorb it or not. Right, and where you want to take it. I think that's a good thing. I think regulation kind of on that is bad. I understand a lot of people can put out bad information, but us as consumers, we got to kind of fact check, and I think that's a positive thing too, because we can, you can have a good message and maybe not be 100% on all the information, but if we're fact checking, we can take the good, use it, bad, dismiss it. I think we need to do that.
The other thing with social media that goes into the fact checking is that people don't do that, right? Like you get the normal person, and you would think that common sense is common, but it's like super rare now. And you get the normal person, and they're like, "Hey, what do I do in this situation?" And you get a random just telling them what to do, and you go in there and you're like, "That is absolutely the wrong thing to do. Don't do that. Absolutely not." And then they go off on you, and they're the experts, and then you get kicked out of the group all of a sudden because you said something, and you're like, well, I guess I ain't helping nobody else. Like that's that happens way too many times.
Where you get to that point, you're like, I'm not even gonna say nothing, but I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna send it to my homies, and then we're gonna laugh about it and talk about it between us, and that's it. I'm good. As far as it goes.
I have seen a positive push though amongst, let's say, for instance, different groups kind of doing their own thing. We're tapped in with Keys, Constrictors, Wiz, KG with Bomb Project, Bob, some of the mainstream people, some people that choose to not be mainstream. And I think the collective trying to push to chase their own projects, I think that interest is increasing, because I think a lot of people see the kind of bottlenecking that's occurred with, whether, and it's just to use it as an example, but, DG Clown projects and, being disappointed with direction. Oh, I spent $10,000 on this and now this combo's $2,000. Personally, I understand that it's happened fast, but that's supposed to happen. It's literally simple supply and demand. The smaller the supply,
I think we're seeing it faster than what people really actually thought they would see it. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of shock factor.
It for the longest. Even with genetic testing,
that's making it so much better.
It's going to go faster.
It's making it so much better for the right people, though. Like
right. So
if it's recessive, you just made it into an incomplete dominant, so it doesn't even matter. It's like
basically, you kind of have, to a certain extent, long as you have the operation dollars to kind of keep that going. Because a lot of, if you're holding back those animals, whatever you're being charged for your testing, it's still a consumable expense. So you're not theoretically getting that monetary value back. So I don't think people plan for that. So when
I think COVID had a problem with all of that, because if you think about COVID, like right before COVID, I know people complained about, like, let's say morph market numbers before COVID. It was like what you had, like 40,000 ball pythons or something like that on morph market,
Huge,
and now we're looking at 30,000 something ball pythons, which is not a huge difference, but we got to think in terms of before COVID happened, we were probably like at 50% of the breeders we have now.
Right.
And it's like everybody during COVID decided they wanted to be a breeder. And I know there's like people call them like COVID breeders or whatever, or pandemic breeders, and they haven't left. Yeah. You say you've been at it 2 years or so. Yeah, it's about the time. Yeah. And it's not that it's a problem that they haven't left. It's a problem that they're still here producing the same old stuff, causing everything else to go down in value, because now every Batman, whenever I started this, a Batman was like $3-4 grand.
Yeah.
A Batman now is like $700-500. It's ridiculous.
So it's the same concept. That's exactly to the T. So putting out the content that we try really hard to put out is to hopefully prepare people that want to get in now. Maybe you got a large sum of money, maybe you don't. But regardless, level the playing field and just be creative. The time, I think, has come and gone where you can jump in and be so anxious and just buy whatever looks good, and then 2, 3, 4 years later revamp and sell everything. You're going to be so upside down if you do that now versus 3 years ago. So it's exactly to that point, whether it's DG Clowns, whether it's the Batmans. The sooner you start replicating that, if somebody sells a male Batman, to someone, or 10 of them to random people, in a year's time, that project is going to be gone, because you also got to look at the different avenues where you may have your platform. You're out there, you're putting out all this hard work on social media. You have a certain reach. You're coming in contact with a certain amount of people from the community. When you lessen that and you're not known, and maybe just because you haven't put forth the effort, and whatever the value is, $1,000 for whatever the combo may be, and you have them now available, and you can't sell yours for $1,000, your next best move is not to market and advertising. It's to cut the price. And you sell it. So the only person that's going to hurt is going to be the other established people, because you're going to get off your inventory and you're done. But now everyone else is looking for that same deal. So
yeah, that kind of happened to me because I got big into tri-stripe, right? And like nobody, I realized that there was a lot of people that were dealing with tri-stripe, but nobody was actually doing anything with tri-stripe. It was just producing tri-stripes, yellow belly tri-stripes, leopard tri-stripes, and then nobody was doing anything like banana. So I produced a banana fire yellow belly tri-stripe this year, female, and I was looking, I'm like, surely this has been done already. Couldn't find not one combo that even was remotely similar to that. And I'm like, I just produced the world's first. And I'm not even sure it should be called the world's first. It should have been done years ago.
It's also that gene set on the shelf for a long time. So it's untapped. It's a lot untapped.
So I spent probably I think I had 4 females that each cost like $1,000. And I had a male that I got from American Made Exotics. I probably spent like $700 on him. And I want to say that I think I had a banana yellow belly tri-stripe male on Morph Market for $2,000. He was almost 200 grams. I said, you know what? 50% off. He was gone within a day. And I'm like, I should have just done this from the get. Like, I wouldn't have, like, the time and all the effort that goes into it. It's just ridiculous, man. And because there's so many people doing the same thing, it just makes things harder for the next person that wants to produce a tri-stripe. They're going to be $500 next year, probably. It's bad.
Exactly. The more people working with a project or within a project, especially what I've seen, the ones that's trying to just replicate something else. If you just want to make tri-stripe and you buy a male tri-stripe and a female tri-stripe and just want to do that, it's just going to continue to decline. The same thing happened with BALLZ. Beautiful snake. And yes, it has a value. Yes, you can sell them. I get that completely. But, and it's only an opinion, to aim to make that, that's a painful journey.
Yeah.
Because you're making a snake that's has a demand, but it's sporadic at best. And you're always going to be negotiating to kind of move it out. But if you're making them by the numbers, the same exact gene over and over and over and over, I mean, you sitting there with 150 bells, you're gonna have a tough season. You know, trying to move all of them in that same season. You need some diversity.
They were going for 500 a pop, no matter what. It was $500 for one for the longest.
Yeah, but you know what? In this market, you have a lot of breeders that wouldn't complain even getting 250 for a bell consistently. You know,
I've seen them at shows for 150, 200. Like they're giving them away now.
It's going to be dangerous to a point where people are just going to literally not really look at the genes or the genetics in it, just creating bells, and at some point they're going to be $80, and people are going to be rushing to, you know, produce 200 of those every season just to recoup $80 a piece.
Well, so I mean, if you think about it, though, it's only 2 morphs. Like it's not anything crazy. A pastel yellow belly or a firefly or whatever, you know, $100 every day.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I don't think, to me anyways, they look beautiful, whatever, but they shouldn't have been as expensive as they were for just being 2 morphs, you know. Because I think they're just catching up.
Those people that were coming in, oh man, that's an all-white snake with blue eyes. That's so cool.
Yeah. And it still has that draw, but the draw is gonna have, I guess, less, you know, costs of admission now. You know, it's just gonna go down. And you're gonna have breeders that's just gonna be doing bell to bell just to ensure that they, you know, have a certain amount of them. Which again, to each his own. I don't want that workload. We're aiming for like 50 clutches this year. I could only imagine having like just a stock of bells that you move in 1 a week or whatever it may be. I don't want those problems. You know, I don't see that as progressing or aiming for the next step. We're constantly trying to figure out what we want to do next.
Yeah, so, and I think you might have the same kind of problem with like crested geckos because they eat a lot more than a ball python does, right? So I always try to tell people with bearded dragons, if you really want to get serious in breeding, do not breed anything that costs less than $150 because more than likely you are going to lose all of that money in feeder costs because it takes about 2 months, 3 months to even sell the animal. So that's 2 or 3 months of feeding an animal that you're not going to get your money back on if it's just a normal, or if it's just something that's $100. It's not going to happen.
Especially aiming to hit that. It's different.
Exactly.
On something. Yeah. I could relate to that. I understand that. Definitely. So how'd you end up getting from the beardies over into the ball pythons?
So I have to credit my wife for this, right? Because she kept telling me no to a snake, right? And when somebody tells you no, right, you just end up doing it anyways. And she's amazing. Don't get me wrong. She's great. But she was like, no. And then I was like, you know, I'm just going to get one. It's going to be a pet. I found somebody that wants to trade a bearded dragon for a ball python. This was the banana calico that I ended up with. And I was like, all right, well, you know, if it's free, you know, it's not going to be a big deal, right? Like I just drive out there, give them the dragon. They give me a snake and I'll come back home with a pet. And like within a month, I probably had 3 more snakes. And she was like, I knew that wasn't going to be the case. So she's put up with me a lot, right? So it was, I got to credit her because she's the reason I ended up with the snake. Just because she told me no, you know, if she would have said yes, who knows where we would be today.
Oh man, that's crazy. Well, Darren was a bad influence for us because he's been here since day one. He was on board when we were talking about the geckos and everything, and my daughter ended up getting a snake at one of the shows, and it was all downhill from there. I told my wife, 10 snakes max, 10 snakes. 250 snakes in now, and still chugging along.
Yeah. How many clutches?
Oh my God, we did 43 last year, and this year I think we're up to 32 so far. Man,
I haven't even done 43.
I haven't gone over 15.
It's definitely year one was 43 clutches, and you know it took us all the way to the beginning of this season, but we moved all of them. We didn't vend or anything yet, and we moved all the inventory. It was 210 snakes. We ended up with 40 holdbacks on top of that, so it really worked out. Everything is going smoothly. We have been revisiting the plan because we budgeted for a very hard hitting 15 grand in rodent costs for the year. But we're revisiting that now because our rodent breeder is amazing. But we're trying to figure out what will we do when you show up. I don't know if you guys have had to deal with it. You show up to I know Darren has. You show up to your rodent breeder, you're getting 300 smalls or whatever a week, and this week you show up money in hand, ready to get him, and he don't have the rodents. What do you do now? And then we haven't ran into that problem, but we don't want to.
Yeah, I ran into it, and I had a guy. He was 200. It was $2, right? $2 every rat, and I was like, whatever size. He said, yeah. And one day he said, I sold everything to somebody that wanted to start breeding rats, and all they're doing is frozen. And I didn't, at that time, I didn't care too much about frozen. And I'm over here. I go a whole month with no freaking feeders, and I'm like, that's never going to happen again. So I started breeding.
Yeah.
Wow.
That will force the hand. That will force the hand. That's serious right there. Yeah, because for $2 a rat, it's not even that big of a deal, because you can find them for like $3, $4, $5 at reptile shows. So I was like, I'm getting a great deal. This is like very good for me. He said no more, and I said, damn. I was just like that. Yep.
Wow. So now, are you doing your own breeding, or you have a different
yeah, so I breed. I have my own breeder rats, and this year I actually went and got. This is another thing my wife hates me for. I went to another rack, right? So I got another freaking ARS rack, and there's more snakes now. So I have to get another. I have to start breeding more rats to make up for the more snakes that I got. But yeah, it makes things. It's honestly not that bad. Like, I think I spend like 2 or 3 hours Friday morning just cleaning up all the rats, and then you just give them water and food all week, and they're kind of good. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Right, definitely.
Yeah, but it's a love-hate relationship.
Oh yeah, for you got a horde over there, man.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Man, how many snakes is in your collection now?
I haven't really counted in a while, but I think the last time I counted was probably 2 or 3 months ago. And it's probably like 80, 90 snakes. Okay. And I've won a few auctions since.
So them auctions are dangerous.
Yeah, it's probably over 100 now. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, man. Which isn't that bad. It's not. It's still doable. Still doable. Once because you gradually grew up to get to that level instead of like jumping at 100 at once. It's kind of like
and I have like the breeders. It's not. I don't have 100 breeders. I have probably like 40, 50 breeders, and all the other snakes are just growing up. So I'm using like hatchling racks, and like the ARS that I just got was the mini 130, and then I ended up getting like 7 levels of the 1078 that I stacked on top of the mini 130. So everything's still kind of using one rack, because I mean, what is that? I don't even know how many spaces that is. That's a lot of space for hatchlings.
The mini 130s, that's a lot of space right there.
Yeah,
that's a lot of time.
Yeah, because you got the 1078. Is that the 6 across or 5 across?
That's the 6 across.
Okay. Yeah, we got that one. We did 17 levels of the 6 across.
Wow,
it's awesome.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, that thing is awesome. I love it. We were thinking about the 130, but then we also have Black Box Cages PVC set up. So we like that because of the versatility of being able to switch out the size of tubs. And we wanted to make sure we was only spending money one time and not trying to revamp things over. So definitely, and Darren and I actually saw the Mini 130 in person at BALLZ, and we're like, I was like, oh yeah,
it's sick. It's
nice. It is.
It's a space saver for real.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
And that decision for me to get a Mini 130 and a 1078 was more so because at the time that I got it, I was also researching hog noses, and I was like, what size like rack do I need for hog noses? And it said use like a mini. At the time, the 10 series was the only thing that was available. And so they were like, use a 10 series, and you can put 2 hog noses in a 10 series, 2 hatchlings, and grow them up. And I was like, well, if I can put 2 in a 10 series, I can surely put 1 in each 130 tub. So I ended up getting the 130 and the 1078 because I knew eventually I was going to get hog noses, and I'm up to 6 hog noses now. Yeah, so.
Oh man, Audra actually likes the hog noses. I'm the one saying nope.
No, they're amazing.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
They're dramatic as hell, but they're amazing.
Yeah, I've seen them like play dead and belly up, and I'm like, oh man.
I have one that every time I stand in front of the tub, even if I'm just walking in, it hisses at me every single time. Doesn't fail. And I'm like, what did I do to you today?
Yeah.
Now, feeding with those, they got to do mouse pinkies or?
So they start off. There's people that even like will cut up the frozen pinky mouse and start feeding just like the heads or like the back end or something like that. Because at first, if they hatch out small, they won't eat a whole pinky mouse. They'll have to eat like half of it. But I think once they're like a year old, you can upgrade and start going towards the pinky rat, which is what I'm feeding mine now because they're all about a year old now. And there's two of them. That's one's like, I want to say 4 or 5 years old. And then the other one's probably like 2 or 3. So they're ready to breed females. I just have to get my male up to size. And that takes forever.
It does take forever. What's normally the time frame? Is it 2 years or?
So it's 2 years for a male and 3 years for a female. And I thought waiting for ball pythons was hard, man. Waiting for hognoses is a hard time. It's annoying.
And hey, that's even to say you wait 3 years if she even goes.
Oh no, the worst part is not even the going part. It's the fact that the females will eat the males.
I was just gonna ask that.
So you could be waiting 3 years, and then all of a sudden you gotta let one less male because it got 8, and you just lost $700 plus an entire year's worth of breeding because that male is gone.
Oh dang! Well, you don't have to feed her again, huh?
Yeah, she's definitely never gonna get fed again. She's gone. She's out of there.
It's like worse than the tarantula.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
is the cannibalism is big with the hog noses? Does it happen often?
It happens enough to say that it happens, but I think what I've researched and everything, they say that if you feed them a large meal or 1 or 2 meals before they go into pairing together, essentially then you might not have it. So it's a might. It's not a definite answer, but
is it because they eat rodents? Eat reptiles in the wild?
So they'll eat. They eat frogs. They eat anything. So I think it has to do with the fact that if you look small enough to fit in my mouth, you're gonna be food. I think that's mainly what it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
that's wild. Yeah, that's one thing you won't have a ball python do.
No, I've had one time where a female. It was so I usually pair on Wednesday because it's hump day. So why not, right? And I have a female that no matter if I fed her Saturday because that's the day I feed on Saturdays, she always thinks it's feeding time when I open up her tub, right? Mm-hmm. And I put a male in there, and she just goes for the male, and I'm like, they wrap around and everything. I close the tub. And I'm like, surely not. She's not gonna hurt him or nothing at this point. She's realized it's another snake. I open the tub. She's still holding on to him. I'm like, what the heck? So I have to separate them. And I'm like, that's the first time last time that's ever happened actually. But it did happen to me once.
I haven't had that happen yet. But I don't see why it would. She's always ready.
She'll take my hand if I let her. So it's. I wouldn't be surprised.
We got one that's like that. And Darren was telling me, hey, you ain't had nothing like literally throw themselves out the tub when you open them, feeding them. I'm like, nah. Yeah. Now we do. We literally is ready to eat.
She hasn't changed. She hasn't changed since that. Since I got her, she's been the same.
Gosh,
never miss a meal, huh? Never miss a meal.
Never. She's only missed them because I tried pairing a male to her, and I was like, "You're gonna be with him regardless, so you ain't eating today." But that was the only time she missed, and she was not happy.
That's
like, I don't want this in here.
Yeah.
So, this season, how many are you planned or have you planned on your pairings for this season that's going on right now?
So in terms of planning, for bearded dragons, I planned 20 clutches. For ball pythons, I planned 20 to 30 clutches this year. Ooh. And I'm actually expecting a baby in December, and I found out May. So my plans were completely thrown out of course because now I have
human baby.
Human baby, yes. A human baby. Okay. And so the entire time I'm like, so what am I gonna do? Because I also try to pair my bearded dragons in quarters. So I was getting to the point where summer was about to start, and I was like, well, this is my second quarter. Do I go for a third and a fourth? And I actually decided not to go for the third and the fourth because bearded dragons, they could essentially pair today and be laying clutches for 3 months. Yeah. So you could essentially be done today, but you ain't done for 3 months because they're still going.
Wow.
So that's why I'm like, well, I'm not going to pair on the third quarter because I might have females from the second quarter still laying.
And on average, how many eggs are they laying?
They're laying on average about 20.
20.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So your biggest bearded dragon season has been what, roughly?
So I don't count in terms of clutches because some clutches could be 28, some clutches could be 13, but on average it is about 20 eggs. So I go more so based off how many babies. And I think the biggest season was last year. And I think I had like 240 babies or something like that I hatched out. Yeah. So it doesn't seem like, it seems like a lot, but if you take into consideration, like if you divide that by 20, you know, that's only 12 clutches, right? So,
Right.
but it seems like a lot because it is a lot. Like every single baby eats up to $100, $150. So you got to count that into 240 babies in a year. Yeah, it's a lot of money going into it before you even earn anything. Like it's a lot.
Now, food, are you doing worms, crickets?
So I feed mainly dubia roaches because they're higher in protein and they carry less parasites. So you're having less issues in terms of health issues. And I think bearded dragons that are fed on dubia roaches strictly actually live a better life because they don't have to eat as much to actually grow. So it's almost like with ASFs and mice and rats. Like the ASFs carry more protein. You feed them one ASF a week for 2 years, that snake is going to be bigger than if it was feeding on a regular rat once a week for 2 years. I don't know how it works because the rat's bigger, but that's just how it is. It's just because the ASFs carry more protein. So that's the same thing with dubia roaches versus crickets and all the other stuff they got.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you still end up with holdbacks and everything?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'm at the point now where I have realized that the people that are breeding right now, I don't want to buy from. So I'm at the point now where I'm like, if I don't produce something that I need, I'm never going to be able to keep going. Like if I this year do not produce something that I need 2 years from now, this is it. That I'm done. Like I'm gonna have to start buying from people I don't trust, and that's not going to work for me.
Yeah. Now, you know, and again, we're all about positivity. So in general, are you speaking about the way that they carry on in public as far as their business and the things that they are involved in, or their actual
it's
animals?
More so the actions they do with the animals, right? So they're more for profit. Like actually somebody sent me a picture on a screenshot on Instagram like last week or the week before, and it was a screenshot of a person sharing their red monster, and the red monster had other babies in the background, and there was one dead in the tub. Who does that? How do you not realize that? And that's people that don't care about the animal. What do they care about? They care about the money, man. And they could care less if there's a dead animal in the background as long as somebody's buying a red monster from them. And that's what red monsters, another bad thing that's happened with the community with red monsters is people are more so money hungry than they are worried about the animals. And I'm sure you guys have kind of that in the, I know that happens in the ball python community because if you have someone that's invested $10,000 into 2 snakes, they don't care so much how the snakes are treated as long as like they get their money back at that point because they just invested $10,000.
Right.
But obviously that's not going to happen because the people that got 10 grand to invest into 2 snakes aren't really low end people. Like, so
right.
But
right,
you could get that from a bearded dragon breeder because you get 20 eggs, right? That's not what you're already expecting on getting them gone as fast as possible because you don't realize how much it costs. So you're like, I need them gone as fast as possible. I need to do everything I can possible to grow them up as fast as I can, no matter what happens, and get them gone for whatever price they need to go, because that's typically what happens with the bearded dragon breeders that just get started. They don't realize what goes into it. Like there's a lot that goes into it.
So you're running all your own social media, Instagram, YouTube, making YouTube videos. You got the beardies, you got all the babies, you got the snakes, all the babies and hatchlings, you got rats, rodents. Now you're doing all this. How much time are you actually investing roughly on a weekly basis?
Weekly basis. So I get up and I actually stopped doing this for a while because I went on vacation. It's hard to get back into routine after a vacation. And I went on vacation and I was getting up like around 5 a.m. every day, being out there till about 9 a.m. and then coming inside, eating breakfast, and then kind of just go about my day because I work from home as well. Like I also have to go to the office. So sometimes the schedule doesn't line up and I could be, cleaning rats for 4 hours, have to take a quick shower and go to the office and be there all day. And nobody knows that I was just dealing with rats for 4 hours. Like, but it's I want to say that now it's hard to get back to the 5 a.m. because of the vacation that I took. But now I'm getting up like around 6 and I'm going till about 9 or 10 depending on the day. But it's usually about 4 hours a day, no matter the day of the week. And with the building that I'm also building, I guess that's even taking more time out of my day. But animal wise, about 4 hours a day. Yeah.
And so you're building a new facility?
Yes. Yeah. It's I think so. It's the building that I had was about 200 square feet, which is tiny. It works for ball pythons because you don't need a lot of space for them. But I did not start with ball pythons. I started with bearded dragons, and they require a lot more space than the ball python does. So I got the ball pythons. I got a rack, and I was like, you know what? Everything's going to be up against the wall, and I'm going to have all of this free space, probably like 100 square feet or so to walk around and move around about. Then I got another rack. And now I don't.
And you got another rack, so you're gonna have to put a day bed next to.
And now I don't have any room now in this building, so I decided that I was going to add on to it. So I took down a brick wall and I opened it up, and now it's going to be about 800 square feet total whenever it's all said and done. I don't need that much space, but it'll be good to have going from about 25 square foot free to about 600 square foot free. It's gonna feel a lot better.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm in your corner, but watch, you're gonna feel that 800 square feet.
I'll fill it up. I'll fill it up eventually. Yeah, my wife has already said don't fill it up, but already know how that goes. So she's probably listening right now too.
Yeah. She's like, I heard what you said.
But my main thing with this building is just trying to uncram everything. So trying to spread everything out a little bit. So even though I'm technically in 200 square foot right now, I'll probably use about 400 square foot of the next building by spacing things out a little bit. Getting my Ackie monitors back, because I actually had some Ackie monitors before, and I had to get rid of them because I was running out of space and I needed it. So they had to go. And so I like them. It's just they require a little bit more attention than most of the reptiles I had, and they were also taking up space. And I was like, I don't have the time and I don't have the space. They got to go. It's just it's simple math you got to make when you're doing this for profit, right? So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, monitors too. Like
Kentucky, your entire time, you've always been in Kentucky?
Yeah, I've actually I've lived in Kentucky my whole life except for 10 months. Well, actually, I say my whole life, but as long as I can remember, I came to the United States when I was 6. So pretty much my whole life, right? And
where are you originally from?
I'm from Cuba. Yeah.
Okay,
Cuba.
Yeah, Cuba. Yeah. So for 10 months, my parents had moved to Florida, and I was still in high school. And they were like, when you get done with high school, just come down, move with us, whatever. They allowed me to finish high school. I was already driving. I was already working. They didn't really care. They trusted me enough to live by myself at that point, even though I wasn't an adult technically because I wasn't graduated from high school. But they trusted me enough. And then when I graduated high school, I went to live in Florida for 10 months. Freaking hated it. It was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Yes. I did not have enough time for my animals. I literally had to work. I was working probably from like 9 in the morning till about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And I also had a second job because everything's just too expensive in Florida. And I just wasn't used to all of that. And I also wasn't used to being away from my animals that much. So I decided to move back to Kentucky, and that was 2015, something like that. And I've been back in Kentucky ever since. So so to say that I've lived in Kentucky the whole time, no, but practically 99%. Yeah.
Wow.
It's like Florida's way too expensive. You would hate California.
Oh, absolutely. My brother moved. So my brother moved to Florida with my parents, and then he moved to Vegas, and then he moved to LA, and he said back to Vegas. This is too expensive over here, and it's just that's how bad California is, man. Vegas is cheap compared to California. That's
at one point I bought a watermelon for $20.
You did what?
You're crazy, man. I about to say the best watermelon ever.
That's been the best watermelon ever. Oh my god! So how's the pace in Kentucky? Is it slower or is it still kind of upbeat?
Kentucky's always been pretty chill, minus Louisville. So Louisville, Kentucky. everything's crazy there. I mean, that's the biggest city in Kentucky, so it's always going to be as bad as it is in almost every big city in the state. But Kentucky overall has always been very chill, and that's another reason why I decided to move back to Kentucky, because the life in Florida, not only was it very expensive, but it was just too much going on. Like even going to the beach was like a whole ordeal. It was like a chore just to go to the beach, so it wasn't worth it. It's easier for me to go to the beach from Kentucky than it is to go live in Florida and do it. Like it's not ideal. So Kentucky is very chill. I pretty much would not mind living in Kentucky the rest of my life. It's just
wow. Okay.
It's pretty chill. Yeah. So don't move to Kentucky to keep it more chill. All right.
Oh yeah. No, we drive through. When we've been Tinley, we'll drive through, that heading that way. But I say the same thing to Audra about South Carolina. I know a lot of South Carolinians do not like it down here, and I'm like, I love it because I come from Newark, New Jersey, and I'm like, I'm not going back.
There was a small portion whenever I was looking for a promotion at work, and I was like, if I don't get it, I'm gonna see if I can move to Columbia, and I was like, no, not a good place.
That's city.
Well, I was trying to look at like outskirts, suburbs, and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I was looking at it, and I was like, this place seems pretty nice. It's not as far from Florida as I am right now, so I'd be closer to my parents by a couple hours. And
as long as you don't move into the city, yes, I would agree. Yes.
Yeah, and I eventually I got the job I wanted, and we've been in Kentucky since. But it was just a consideration because I've been to South Carolina, I've been to Virginia, I've been to Georgia, a bunch of like states in that coast. But it's just I always liked South Carolina. It seemed like a chill spot. It would just it was nice. Yeah. So I like South Carolina. So I don't know if there's people complaining about South Carolina.
Yeah, all the time. Plus, I mean, I do get it because, Audra and myself, we also worked in law enforcement, so we had to kind of deal with kind of the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
And so once you're exposed to that, it kind of makes you look at things differently. But even with me looking at it, it still wasn't as worse as it was in Jersey. So I was just like, I love it down here.
There's a lot of people that moved from Jersey and New York to Florida when I was living there. It was like,
I put it to you this way: you move out of Jersey, anywhere, it's just like yes.
Yeah.
Once you leave out, you're like yes. They call it
the Dominicans, Puerto Ricans. It was a bunch of what was the other one? It was Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, and there was like some kind of European native people that kept moving down to Florida from New Jersey and New York. That entire 10 months, I kept meeting someone new, and I was like, "Where are y'all coming from?" Like, go back.
Especially New York. A lot of people. It's the craziest thing because New York is so expensive. A lot of people work there their entire life, and they'll retire and then move down to Florida. And kind of up on their retirement, which is kind of cool, I guess. But yeah, up there it's just too much. Too much. Look, Frank is still surprised he paid $20. That's gonna be the line of the whole.
Like, no.
No. Well, why? Definitely.
I wouldn't. Oh, I wouldn't even pay $1 for a watermelon. I'm not a watermelon fan, to be honest. But
really,
and we
yeah,
got Kyle.
I like mangoes though.
Tell the people your Instagram.
Yes, Instagram is QB's Tails and Scales. QBS Tails and Scales, the letter N. And that's the same across the board for YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. What else I got? I think that's it.
Quick question for you, because like myself, a lot of people watch you actually on YouTube. What has been your approach to creativity, production, and what you want to gain from your YouTube channel?
It's funny because I guess another part of my journey to this point is I used to actually have a YouTube channel when I was a kid. It was it was before kid YouTube took off. Like I should have been doing YouTube as a kid right now, apparently, because they're making millions off kid YouTube and I'm not. But me and my friends, we had this YouTube channel, and I think it wasn't like a big YouTube channel. I think the most we ever did on one video was like 100,000 views or something like that. And it was just the dumbest video ever. We earned zero money, but that's when we did it. And I was using Power Director and a bunch of different softwares to test it out. And when I got back into YouTube in 2022, I decided why not use the programs I was already used to using? So I've always been using Power Director. And I think for anyone that wants to get into YouTube, Power Director they have a free version, but I pay for the 365, which I think it's like, $80 a year or something like that. And it has AI help. It has, there's so many like different effects and transitions on there. It's ridiculous, the possibilities in terms of creativity that you got from just one software. And that's all I use for everything that I do. And I think even if it takes me like 20 minutes, 30 minutes to film a video, it takes me less time somehow to edit it, because I kind of just skip through the parts that I know needs to be edited out. And it just, it's 2 clicks and you get something removed. Like, it's super simple, super easy.
Wait, how old are you that you had a YouTube as a kid?
So I'm 28 right now. I'll turn 29 in November.
That's why I was like,
yeah, he was like, damn, YouTube as a kid, he must have been a kid.
Darren got kids your age.
I surely do.
That's all right. That's all right.
25. No, it's good. Right. It's good because you started young. You started young. So that's
I've always had the hustle in me. I've never liked to do one thing. It's no matter what I did, I always did multiple things to not just for extra income. It's just I guess you could say I have ADHD. I've never been diagnosed, but I hate sitting still. And I like, even right now doing this podcast, I've been literally just moving my chair back and forth because I can't sit still.
Is that why you asked me how long is it gonna be?
Yeah.
You're like, how long is it? Wait.
I don't care if it's longer. I wanted to prepare myself, because you have to mentally prepare yourself when you have when you're someone that can't sit still. Like I legit, I have ants in my pants. Like, I'm the definition of ants in your pants. Like, that's just how it is. And my son's the same, and I get on him about it, but he's just like me.
He's just like me.
He's like, hey, stay still. He's like, it's so hard. I can't.
It is. It's like, that's exactly how it's like too. But
you have your wife is supportive. You have your son. You have a new baby on the way. Is that the whole family?
I have a daughter, and I have another kid. Yep, I have a 6-year-old, 2-year-old. She turns 3 here soon, and then I got another one coming in December. And
2-year-olds, and then going back to the Pampers. Ouch.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good time. That's all I gotta say. It's a good time. No complaints.
Having them far apart is hard, but yes, when they're closer, it's all right.
Yeah, it's that's the last one though. So at this point, it's just after this. Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Sure.
Can't happen again. It can't happen again. Medically, it can't happen again. So
I don't know.
Hey, I'm here with
sometimes you. They refuse. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what they said, and I said I don't want that to happen again. And he was like, "All right, I'll take more than I usually do out of like that vein that they take." I was like, "Good. I don't want anything to ever happen again." So,
he's like, "I want an extra fade to the skin."
Yeah, exactly. But I think at this point, I mean, my kids love the animals too, and it's more like my son being 6. He's getting to the point now where I thought he was getting to this point where he would be able to help out a little bit. But I made the mistake of getting him a Nintendo Switch in December, and it's been the opposite of helping out. Now he plays Minecraft like 24 hours a day. It's like, it's bad.
Oh, wow. Well, we set them up on schedules, so they got to work certain amount of hours every week. So I'm
pretty sure the older he gets, the more I'm gonna try to actually work him into doing stuff, because at 6 years old, I remember when I was 6, and I know for a fact I can't sit and do something for. I mean, I'm 29 almost, and I can't sit and do something for more than a couple of hours.
But,
so
it's still different for our younger generations coming up. Yeah, it may be even our passion or our dream to kind of go down these paths, but it also provides them that entrepreneurial structure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I tell a lot of times when we've been shows, we'll bring the kids down, and part of our business plan is not really the money making side of the shows. Is really want to get the branding out there, the networking out there. But when we bring the kids, we like them to be the face of the brand. We want them doing all the customer engagement, because we can teach them better life lessons. When you speak to someone, you look them in the eyes, make eye contact, make sure you elevate your voice, make sure you can be heard, don't mumble, enunciate, all the regular things you need to learn about public speaking and life.
How old are your kids?
13, 14, 15. So
okay, he got him closer than I did. So
yeah. And then we got the 21. So my daughter, she's the oldest. She's like their second mom. So
oh, cool, yeah.
it's really, really cool. But as you can imagine, having, those boys, we just took them to the park yesterday, sitting there throwing the football, and, they want to tackle with no pads and all the crazy stuff. So it's like Royal Rumble in the house. Something's always getting broken. It's always wrestling.
That's a good age, though, for learning about small business and
Absolutely.
starting your own business and everything, because that's around the same time where you start thinking about, when I'm 16, I want to get out of here and go do something.
Absolutely.
They can do anything they want.
Anything. It's funny because, I often go overboard with everything, even right now we're doing a live stream, we got the camera and everything set up. A lot of times I'll bring, my sons in here, one by one, I'll set the camera up just to record, not necessarily live, and sit them down like, all right, hey, we're going to, work on some of these life lessons, and I'll toss them an orange, start talking, tell me about this orange for the next 60 seconds. So now I can count how many times you say and the and look away into the star. And I know it sounds crazy to the common person that's actually, watching.
That's literally how it was for me in high school. I was in this engineering program in high school, and my engineering teacher, he was real strict on, I wouldn't say strict, but he was real adamant on you talking and being able to communicate with somebody a way to where they never lose focus. So when you say immediately you lose focus.
Right.
So it's more so you teaching them, like you said, a life skill.
Absolutely.
Even if they go and do something corporate, even if they don't want to do anything with your business or anything like that.
Right.
You ain't gonna get hired as a corporate person if you say every 5 seconds. Like that's not gonna happen.
And it also helps them, if they're 9th grade, 8th and 9th grade, going into high school. I mean, who wanted to get in front of the microphone and give speeches and everything in high school? I didn't, but
I didn't either, but I had to.
18, but you had to, right? Exactly. So this kind of helps them, for the next levels of life. So exciting.
Yeah, we were in this this program, and they were it was just like a small project. We ended up a project that was just within this program, and somehow it got discussed to the school board, and the school board wanted us to present it to them.
Yeah,
and we're like, how? And then
I don't want to do that.
The school board was like, well, you guys have this project. I want you to make it happen. I want it to come into fruition and do something with it. It was an amphitheater for our school. Like, we're high school students, and we're over here designing and creating an amphitheater for the school that we go to. And then they were like, but we're not going to fund all of it. You got to go get funding from somewhere else. So then we had to present the same presentation to Lowe's and get funding from Lowe's. And they offered us, I think, like 20 grand, which is a lot of money for high school students to finish something that they've never done before. But I'm not Lowe's, so it's their money. They can do whatever they want with it. But it turned out pretty good. I mean, but those were situations and those were events in my life that allowed me to pursue things like my job. Like, not a lot of people can say they work from home. They have 4 hours at the beginning of their day that they can do something that they love, and they have time for their family, and they have time for themselves. I can go to the gym at 10 o'clock in the morning, go for an hour, come back home. My wife goes after I go. She comes back, and I've been working the entire time because I don't have an hourly job. My job is a corporate job. So I can literally be anywhere in the world within reason because sometimes they need me. They need me in the office sometimes, but and I can do whatever I want as long as the job gets done, and as long as nobody gets hurt, and as long as nobody gets fined, and no money goes out the company's hands. I'm good. So it's the events that happened in high school, I am grateful for, and that teacher that I had in high school, I talk to him as often as I can now, being almost 29, because he shaped me. Like, I know my parents did a great job with me, but high school was like the best time of my life. And most people say that because, that's when they had all the fun, right? But I didn't have fun. I had life lessons. Like, it shaped me to the person that I am today because of the way my teacher treated me, because he saw the potential that I had. So for you to do that with your kids, that's amazing, man. Mad props.
Absolutely. So to spin it back into the ball pythons, what's some of your most anticipated pairings this year?
So I did a pairing earlier this year, and I was expecting more eggs. So this is a bigger female, and I only got 4 eggs, which I was pretty upset about. But the pairing that I did was Het DG, Het Clown, And the only reason I did this pairing is because they had just released DG and VPI Xanthic and most of the shed testing everywhere, like Gray Rider Reptile, shedtesting.com, and RGI. And I was like, I'm not going to do this for any other reason than to get them shed tested. I'm not going to sell anything. So I ended up with 4 snakes, and the male that Het DG Het Clown was paired to a VPI Xanthic Het Pied. And I'm like, so I already have to do the minimum 3 tests for every snake just to possibly get some triple heads and some quad heads, possibly. I might end up with a bunch of double heads. That was, in terms of getting ready for the rest of, my career as a ball python breeder, that was like a big jump, and only possible because of shed testing.
Right.
Other than that, my biggest pairings this year have been all my tri-strike pairings. I had 3 tri-strike pairings, and I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but I've only had 12 clutches. So it's a quarter of my entire year. It's been tri-strike pairings, and I think it was 4 tri-stripes that I produced out of the 3 clutches. And I'm still waiting for a tri-stripe test because I ended up with some super banana possible head tri-stripes, and there were females. And I'm like, you know what? That's like, I would never sell these if they were like het clown or something like that. So why would I sell them if they're possible het tri-stripe? Once I shed test them, they're going to be, probably, if they are het tri-stripe, they'll stay here for sure. But I think like the morphs that got me into ball pythons was pied and banana. So if I can get banana and everything, and I can get pied into everything, I'm going to do it, because that's what drew me into the ball python community. And other pairings that I had anticipated that are still not happening because the females are still like 10 millimeter follicles. But I had a tri-stripe paired to a het DG het VPI Xanthic, trying to get some DG Xanthic tri-stripes, hopefully in a couple of years. But she's not letting him touch, or he's not touching. I don't know what's happening, but it ain't happening.
Hate when that happens.
And he's like 700 grams. I'm like, come on, dude. Just do something.
You do have an ultrasound.
Yeah, I have an ultrasound machine now. So I ended up going half and half with another person that wanted to get into ball python breeding. And I told him, he actually worked for Amazon at the time, so he got a discount. So I was like, hey, I'll pay half of it, and we just share it. And he was like, what I'll do is I'll just bring it to your house, and I'll bring the snakes with me, and you can just keep the ultrasound machine and show me how to use it, because I don't know how to use it. And he was like, essentially like, you know more about this stuff than I do. So he just left the ultrasound machine here. And actually, like last month, he messaged me. He said, hey, man, I'm going to get out of breeding ball python.
Oh, man.
And I was like, no way, dude. And he was like, yeah. He was like, if you can sell everything for me, you can keep whatever you want, as long as I get my money back. And I was like, that's dope. That's exactly what I've been doing. I have like 3 snakes left to sell from him. So I have an ultrasound machine that I gained from it. And I sold him a VPI Xanthic pied, a pinstripe VPI Xanthic pied female last year. I have one that I kept also. She's probably like, I want to say 600 grams or so. And I'm getting her back out of this deal. So I'm like,
win-win.
Yeah, win.
I got at least $2,500 out of this, and I haven't even had to do anything. So yeah, it was. That's the only reason I got an ultrasound machine, was because I talked somebody into going halfsies with me, and he decided he was done. I don't know how you do that, but it is what it is.
You're gonna see more and more people like slowly start moving out. We had this happen too. So I've
seen it happen with bearded dragons, and I knew it was going to happen with ball pythons. I just figured the people that were closest to me, it wouldn't happen to, because they saw, it's, for me anyways, it's hard to see someone else grind as hard as they're grinding, and then you decide to just fall back and not do it anymore.
Right.
Like, I feel like the grind that somebody else has is the motivation that you need to grind even harder, not for competitive reasons, but just to be better than you already are right now.
Yeah, that's definitely like a life lesson, and what we kind of abide by here, because I think even if Audra was up here right now, she'd tell you that I push to the point of it's annoying. So I look at people, even people are gonna fail, and people are gonna be successful. I look at both, and I kind of, just try to not necessarily mimic it, but how can you improve a situation regardless of what it is? Even a great situation, how can you make it better? A bad situation, how can you make that better? And I think everybody should kind of look at that, identify what your own personal weaknesses are, your strengths are, and knowing all of that information, you kind of approach that situation. Me, I kind of had that kind of don't bend, don't fold, no surrender. And I know that it can be detrimental, but I'm always thinking, okay, this person may have done X, Y, and Z wrong. How can we kind of get through or over or under that obstacle?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because that's almost what I did at the beginning of this. I was looking at other breeders, because at the time, whenever I started getting into bearded dragons, there was already a bunch of breeders that aren't even here now. And I was like, what are they doing? And what is their problems? Like, what is causing them to leave the hobby? What is causing them to quit? And it was money. Everything's always coming down to money.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I realized that I needed to make more money on the side, besides having a reptile collection, besides working. That wasn't enough. So I actually started making PVC enclosures, just custom PVC enclosures for people.
Oh,
and
wow.
That funded a lot of the growth that I have now, where I was, I sell a $1,000 enclosure. It cost me, $600 to make it. I just profited $400. I can go buy a snake. I know it's hard to find a good snake for $400, but just an example, so, but it was like, that helped me. It didn't cost me anything. It just cost me time. So if I can convert my time into even more money, then I'm going to do it, because I need, right now, you always going to need more money in order to reinvest into your business, so you can grow to the place where all these bigger breeders are. And I'm not trying to compare myself to anybody, but those people got, thousands and thousands of snakes that they're producing every year. I produce maybe 70, 80 snakes, and I'm already overwhelmed. Like, just because of not because of the snakes, but because I have like 200 other reptiles I got to take care of. So the snakes are the tipping of the iceberg, right? So I'm like, just at this point, if I breed the snakes, it pays for the feeders that I need for bearded dragons. Mm-hmm. And if I sell a bearded dragon, then it could potentially make my business on the snake side grow. And it's just a symbiotic relationship. I actually just made a video about this morning, to be honest. So it's perfect timing that I'm saying this. But it's almost like a symbiotic relationship between me, the snakes, and the bearded dragons. We all help each other out. They help each other out. If the snakes need feeders, somehow a dragon will sell that day. Exactly. It's crazy how that works.
Weird.
It's really weird how that works. But that's just essentially the thing that I did was, how can I make this business grow without me having to stick more money into it? So that's when I started doing the PVC enclosures, essentially. And it works. It helps out a lot. Like right now, PVC and most materials are outrageous. But starting out, I mean, I was probably doing 4 or 5 enclosures a week. So, and I know that sounds like, I mean, each enclosure took about an hour. So it was like 5 hours a week that I was putting towards, building enclosures, but it needed to be done in order for me to get more animals, in order for me to reinvest.
And basically it's a different way of diversifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And looking at it from that perspective, we looked at the long-term approach of it. And that's why we don't attack, people who wants to breed this and just kind of constantly reproduce, single gene or 2 gene animals. We don't do it necessarily that way. We just kind of present it in a manner of what's going to be our next step. This is what we're going to try to do. This is how we think it may be better. We may add a gene and make it worse, but at least now we know, and we know not to do that. And then we go a different route. So longevity, whatever we invest in the investment side at the beginning, we completely understand that we are not pulling that money back out in the next 7 to 8 years. This is the long term. So we kind of harp on just like working for any job that you enjoy working for, or owning a business that you enjoy owning, but it's hard work. It's the same investment strategy. Yeah. It's like you're spending money essentially to start a business that now, through your own hard work and effort, is producing revenue every year. And it may take a collective group of years to gain that initial investment back, which is perfectly fine. But once you cross that threshold 10 years and keep on going, now you're in the black and you're still rocking. You got your whole foundation. Everything is there for you, and you still.
Yeah, that's one thing I like try to work into my Patreon members is, don't worry about what you're putting in right now. Worry about 3 years from now when you start breeding and you actually start getting babies. What are the possibilities that you're going to make that money back? If it's not a good possibility, don't do it. Find a different pairing, find a different combo, find a different project, work something else, because that one's not going to work for you. So even before you buy something, that's something you have to really take into consideration is even though you're looking at the prices today, let's say they're 50% 3 years from now. You got to take all that into consideration because if you don't, you're going to fail like 100% of the time. It's a given. That's how it works for everybody.
Yep. Or you'll fall into that, where you're kind of chasing your tail.
Yeah.
I spent $5,000 on this male. I spent $5,000 on this female. That's 10 grand. Even though the male is ready to breed a year in, it takes this female 2 or 3 years to start breeding. They start breeding. I think it's your approach. You're right, 1,000%. Actually, Darren, KG, we've had so many conversations over it, and it's not about one person being right or wrong. It's about what's your situation. We knew, like, look, we haven't been doing this for 20 years, but we enjoy it and we're having fun with it. But what's the best approach for us? And it's always been choose a really, really nice male. If it's one of them high dollar males, okay. Now, where are you going to take this project?
Yep.
You start mapping it out. Sometimes the exact female you need may not be readily available, especially as a juvenile or a breeder. That's fine. So what we did in that case was we did buy some babies that we had to grow out, but that didn't break the bank for that project. We bought exactly what we wanted in that combo. Now we're looking, okay, well, what's in that project? Oh, wait, we can get this, pod head DG girl that's a breeder or, 900 grams.
Yeah.
It's the same project. You start getting that. So by the time that male is breeding for you, you're now producing holdbacks, even for you on the female side to move forward. But now that 2 years is in and now that fresh baby hatchling you bought is ready and you're doing that exact parent you need, you're already leaps and bounds in front of that project for yourself.
Yeah. And that was I know whenever I started ball pythons, I ended up with the banana calico. I guess I was telling you guys before the live started, but ended up with the banana calico, and I paired him to all the things that I found that I liked. Mojave pinstripe, pastel. I think she might have had another morph in there. I couldn't really ID it. Some pewters, a bunch of stuff just to make my banana calico extra. And then I realized I hated it. I didn't really I liked the banana calico, but I hated everything else that I was doing. So then I got into pied, and I ended up with xanthic pieds, mahogany pieds, blackhead pieds, and I was like, I love these pieds. I love the pieds that are dark, with obviously the nice contrast and everything like that. So the males obviously are going to be ready 1 year from now, maybe 18 months from now, whatever it is. The female's going to take a lot longer. You find an adult female like that. I ended up with what is it? That Mojave pinstripe pied or Mojave pinstripe pastel. I ended up pairing her to something, kept some of her babies, and I'm like, well, now this baby's going to 2 years from now, I'm going to be able to. It'll be het VPI xanthic het pied. It'll be a female, I'll pair a male to it, whatever it is. And I'll be able to get something even better than I anticipated because I'm actually working towards creating my own collection instead of working towards buying something to create my own collection. And I know it sounds ironic, like you could have sold that snake and made more money out of it or whatever. But in the long run, you get your money back because you didn't have to go searching for something. It's not really about the money. It's about the time, the energy, and everything you put into searching for something, talking to someone, getting lied to. Because ever since I got into ball pythons, I've been lied to more than I've ever been lied to about reptile genetics in the past. Like, it's ridiculous. I was like, where are these people just getting all these genetics from? Like, how does that work? Like, it's just surreal that somebody would lie that much about genetics. Like, I actually bought a tri-stripe possible 66% had BPI xanthic, 66% had hypo, and shed tested it. It came back negative for both. I was not worried about it. It's only a chance, right? Then the person's messaged me like 2 months later and said, hey, I shed tested the breeders that I had. They came back negative. And I was like, no freaking way. Like, you were only going off what you knew. You thought you just didn't hit the odds. That's crazy. And I'm over here done spend money on genetic testing for no reason.
So how long was he in it? Because that's been a thing for a while. It's kind of like you got to pick up from certain breeders.
Yeah, and so it was a big breeder. They sent me the name of the person they got it from. So, yeah.
Because the value is more. If I tell you that it's more. That. And genetic testing is going to stop all of that noise.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's been a thing for a while in the ball pythons.
I think there's going to be a point where if your description or your ad or whatever doesn't say genetic tested for clown, genetic tested for pie, DG, whatever, it ain't going to sell as fast. I think we're getting to that point now, because if you look at all the ads, even if like the pairing was 100%, like you would expect it to be 100% hets because one of the parents is visual. I think those are going to get to the point where people are just going to think people are lying. Show me the pairing, show me the parent, show me them locking, show me her around the eggs. Like people are going to get to that point where if you don't show me all this, I ain't going to believe you. There's too much lying going on. It's terrible.
Right. I could see it going in that direction. Definitely.
I'm at that point now where if you don't see me her on eggs, I don't think she laid the eggs.
He said the
For
trust
real.
is gone.
100%.
I think a lot of people who find themselves in your situation though, where you've kind of been through it already, you've kind of had that first experience, or at least a couple experiences where it's like, all right, you've already put your hand on the stove and got burnt. So you're like, all right, now moving forward, you're going to move in a different manner. I get it.
Yeah,
See,
and
I had the total opposite from you. I got animals that people weren't telling me that they were hets because they're pos hets, which they were selling it cheaper anyway, so they won't say nothing.
I'd rather that happen.
I think everybody would.
Yeah, it's like, oh dang, I just got a DG out of this. Crazy, man. It's wild, man. I would be so happy if that was the case, but I've never had that happen. It's sad. I actually had it happen with bearded dragons too, and it's been where I knew it was a possibility, so I was spending all this money on snakes, but I was just so motivated that I never thought to question anything. And now that I have that's happened to me, right? So now I see people complaining on Morph Market Group or whatever, or people just complaining in general. Oh, this person, send me 100 questions before they even send me money. And then there's like those memes or whatever saying the person spending $50 on a snake asks more questions than the person spending, $1,000 on a snake. It's true. It's 100% true. But I'm at the point now where, because I've been lied to, I see why somebody would spend that much time asking questions before they send you any money.
Right. I mean, I get it.
You got to also think too, now what's happening is that these guys are, you get an older female or whatever. That female is retaining semen, right?
That's true. Yep.
So then you did a pairing last year, right? But you went with this pairing and it should be het because it's a visual animal. Those babies that are coming out, they're not being a het because it's retained semen.
Yeah.
From the pairing before. So that could also happen.
Yeah, so it's a lot of what ifs though. I mean, you got to also look at it like same thing. Darren, you getting these snakes that's having these extra genes. When you're working with so many recessive, and it's still gonna go on for quite some time, you're gonna have a lot of. I bet you all three of us have snakes in our collections right now that we don't know is het for some recessive, because there's no visual cues in it until you test. You do screen panels on every snake, in your collection, you're not really going to know what's going on, especially with some of these hets. You may have something that's het hypo, and you don't work hypo at all in your entire collection, and then you're producing babies. Because I think as a newbie, the percentages, that was one of the hardest things to understand at the beginning. But knowing that a snake is either, especially with recessive, it's either het or not.
Well, I mean, if you think about what happened to Billy from Mutation Creation when he started getting into Monsoon,
right?
He bought a bunch of like BALLZ and specials and all that stuff, bred them, somehow ended up with Monsoons. How do you do that? Like they're like the most sought after thing besides Sunset right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, because you're out there reading it. Yeah, it's in the collection. So it's a lot of that going around where you have het clowns, het pies, all these recessives in the single gene form, where it's kind of making its way around. And here it is, you may breed just one animal, whether male or female, to another animal that don't have recessives in it, but somehow half the babies end up with that one copy that you don't even know. You sell them and somebody got a free gene.
Yeah, I actually bought a snake, I want to say like 2 months ago, a pinstripe clown female. I got her for $500. It was just dirt cheap because she was a proven breeder. And the person that I got her from, he said, there was 2 eggs, right? Because apparently he had like an electrical malfunction or something like that. And he said there was 2 eggs that produce white snakes. I don't know what happened. The dad of the babies were supposedly het DG, and I was like, all right, so potentially this babies could have just been they died or whatever before they develop any color in the egg, or there could be DG in the female. And I was like, you know what, I'll chance it. Here's $500, I'll take it. I mean, the worst thing that could happen, she's not het DG, and I just got a breeder clown female for $500. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think genetic testing is going to be like the end for some people and the beginning for others, because there's going to be a lot of people that are, I hate to say it, but in my situation where you spend that kind of money on a snake and then you find out that it's not het for anything, you're going to, if you do that enough times, you're just going to say, screw it and sell everything. You're not going to even try to receive your money. I mean, that's
it's happened. It's happened. Matt actually with American Made, he already put it out there. He had bought that het Sunset and grew it out and bred it and missed on the eyes, bred it again, missed on the eyes. It was like, I think 5 or 6 years in, just for him to send the chair test in and know that that female is not het at all. He spent thousands on that female and messed up on breedings and everything just to know that it's not het at all.
At that time, that was spending some money.
Yeah.
And not to prove out,
And not even just that. Think about where the program was at that time, and you're thinking you're getting in and getting time. Getting ahead. Your head, cross hats, and you weren't making nothing. not in the direction you were trying to go in. You know.
Yeah, and genetic testing has also made things easier to the point where you can buy a male now that's het, not even anything visual, pair it to a bunch of normals. All of a sudden, you just shed test everything. You know, spend $500 or whatever, and you just made, let's say, 20 snakes that are 100% hets that you can obviously make your money back with. Yeah. So it's like I said, the beginning and the end for some people, and who knows who's going to be the one that ends tomorrow based off genetic testing, or who's the one that's going to be making it big based off genetic testing. But I know it's working out for a lot of people, just not me. So
let me ask your opinion, because actually down there I was talking about the multi-recessive projects. We've seen a hardcore swing right before we got in, where it got away from the incomplete dominant, super combos, 7 to 8 gene snakes, got more heavily into the recessives, and more so multi-recessives, quad, penta. Do you think it will ever go back to strictly incomplete dominant?
Absolutely not.
I don't think so either. And
the combos now are just so absurd and so insane looking. It's hard to go back to just plain Jane stuff. It's hard.
So do you think the direction of things will make it, because I feel like it's going to make it more complicated in a good way. And I'll explain. I think the pentas and the quad, even when you're hitting, triples, and actually hitting the quad recessives, I think it's going to be going in a good positive way, because people say, all right, well, once you hit the penta, what then? It's still a lot of work to be done when you get these incomplete dominance in. You're not just going to be hitting it just like that. You got to have a certain, and even breeder specific. If we're one of them breeders in a penta project with certain genes in it, just to add something like spot nose into that mix, it's like a whole overhaul of what you have going on in a smaller collection. So I don't think it's as simple as people think it is.
No, I think with all of these multi-recessive projects, we're at the point now where there's going to be a limit, right? You can't just put every recessive into every snake.
Right.
Like, I think if you were to do, a desert ghost, clown, pied, lavender albino, you can't do anything else with it. You can't add ultramel on top of that. That's not going to work. You can't really, if you add hypo on top, like what's really the difference that you're going to get there?
You can't see. You don't see nothing.
So it's,
I think you would face an obstacle even with DG and Laugh in that combo.
Yeah, 100%.
DG Laugh.
I've seen like Bob does DG bananas, and I'm like, those look nice. Like, they look super clean. But for the naked eye, or the average person, they're not going to know why they're spending $2,000 on a snake.
Can't tell.
Yeah, you can't tell. Versus if you take banana out, all of a sudden DG pies look amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
so
I don't know. I was thinking of the monsoon xanthic hypo clown. That's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking about.
So
Like,
I probably shouldn't say this, right? Because that'll just throw everything out, and somebody might try to beat me because they have more money than I do. But I was actually thinking, and I saw the clown tri-stripe, and I was like, this looks terrible. And I saw the pied tri-stripe, and I was like, this looks terrible. It looks like a pied. It looks like a tri-stripe. There's no clown. It doesn't even look like clowns in there. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, there has to be a morph that is so crazy that'll change the tri-stripe for the better. And not just color changing, but something that'll change it for the better in terms of pattern. So I was thinking to myself, and I was actually talking to another breeder friend of mine, and I was like, dude, take your monsoon, pair that with my tri-stripe. Let's make some double heads. We'll split the clutch, figure out what happens, and then we'll take it from there because no one else is thinking about doing this. Nobody else is messing with tri-stripe.
Right.
And nobody else has the money for a monsoon.
Yep.
So it's at this point, it's, you got to take the risk. You got to do something different than what everybody else is doing. And you can't just do DG Pied Clown. You can't just do Holy Grail projects. You can't just do that anymore because everyone else is doing it. So you got to make yourself appear different. You might be doing something similar in terms of other projects, but just one thing that sets you apart will do you good for your entire business model, because that person that wants to buy that monsoon or whatever it is that you have that's different, they could potentially be like, well, do you have any clowns? Do you have any desert ghosts? I want those too so I can pair my monsoon. And essentially you just made a sale of 3 to one person because they could have gone to somebody else for that, but they came to you, got the monsoon, and you had other stuff too. So it happens to me all the time where somebody's like, hey, you have this, and that. I'm like, here you go. There's 5 different things I just sold you.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right on that one, because we actually have a tri-stripe pied male that we're using to do a few different things, and the same concept though. Powerful male, but the route we're gonna go with is gonna be kind of color changing and a little bit of pattern as well. So
I wonder if it's gonna really do something. So if somebody has a tri-stripe pinstripe, see what happens. That should be close to the same thing. Does nothing.
So tri-stripe and pinstripe, what happens is the tri-stripe at the top becomes more defined, and the pins, so like the 2 stripes around the sides of the dorsal end up becoming pinstripe where they have more breaks in it, but essentially just looks like a regular tri-stripe that just almost looks like a blade tri-stripe, to be honest, like just better definition. So I actually produced some, and I was like, nah, I'm just gonna call these tri-stripes because if they end up being pinstripe, they don't look different enough for me to say they're pinstripe at that point. I thought they would have looked even better, but they just didn't look different enough for me to say these are good. Like, these are nice. This is a nice combo. Yeah, see?
Oh, yeah. You can still see the pinstripe.
Yeah, you can still see it, especially in the eyes. I mean, it's hard to ignore the eye stripe for a pinstripe, but it doesn't appear to be doing much. And I think that one actually might be yellow belly because everything's more up into the body.
Yeah.
But that one doesn't. The ones I produced actually had the tri-stripe marker, like the dorsal stripe was dark. So this one actually looks a little bit better.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that one looks more pinstripe than the one I produced.
That one looks
That's the thing about polymorphism, right? You could be like, this one's pinstripe, and they're like, well, this one is too. It's like, you sure they look different, but whatever.
And we're also still working that G stripe. We're working the Hypo Kiki project, trying to throw more red stripe, more red head into that project. So
I like the Kiki stuff.
Yeah,
I just personally, for myself, I didn't have any G stripe in my collection, so I never got into it. And I didn't, like I said, I don't want to be the person that has to spend a lot more money to go into a different project, because then you end up with 30 different projects for no reason.
But I'm still surprised that which is nothing we could do about it, but the G stripe clown comes out looking pretty good, and then the tri-stripe clown didn't really kind of pan out the same way or similar.
I don't know how that worked, because all you see about the tri-stripe clown that even says clown is the head pattern. Like everything else is tri-stripe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're into the puzzle also, right? So what do you think about the puzzle clown?
The puzzle clown's pretty dope. It is. I think there's more clown looks in the puzzle clown than the tri-stripe clown. And I said this in one of my videos before. Puzzle and tri-stripe are actually very similar. Like I think the tri-stripe is just a more defined puzzle, And the puzzle's just like, I'm crazy. I don't even like, obviously they're also assholes. Like every puzzle that I have is always trying to bite me. Like it's bad. But even the tri-stripes, actually, they're pretty similar in terms of attitude. But I think the way that I see them, the way they interact with other morphs, I think puzzle and tri-stripe are very similar. Just tri-stripe is more defined and puzzle's more sporadic, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I've seen some, and there hasn't been very many of those puzzle clowns out there, but some of them I'm like, are they sure that's what it is? And then some of them I'm like, yeah, I see it.
You got a genetic test it. So what I've learned is I don't think you want to do it with leopard. They didn't really do anything. And I want to see, they haven't made the spot nose, right? Or the spot nose they have. And it didn't really look that crazy.
Supposedly, it will see.
Let's see.
I want to see more
what it does with acid. Acid or confusion.
See, and that's what I wanted to. That was going to be my stepping stone into the monsoon tri-stripe. Was acid or confusion tri-stripe to see if that actually changed anything. But I said, screw it. I'm just going to buy a het monsoon male and shed test a bunch of females that come out of the. So it's at that point it's just shed testing for the win. I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll wait it out, see what happens.
If that, you're gonna have to. By the time they're ready, you might have babies on the ground. That male's ready to go. The babies are ready to go, and you might have to hold on to the babies just to get that to come out, like they did old school. Keep them all. Keep all the females.
Keep them all. Yeah, but I think the problem with everybody in the puzzle clown is the fact that because shed testing did make it more apparent that there was clown in these puzzles, people are even more. Being more dramatic about it because they're like, dang, somebody just spent $1,000 on what could have been a $10,000 snake,
right?
And somebody just lost that much money that somebody else just gained essentially. And I think if it would have been the tri-stripe or not the tri-stripe, the puzzle clowns that do look like puzzle clowns, I think everybody would have just been like, they don't look good enough, right? But I think because of that fact, or somebody did kind of lose all that money. I think that's why it's been more dramatized than it would have been if it was like the tri-stripe clown. The tri-stripe clown is really like just super plain tri-stripe look.
Yeah. It almost made that like either blade or inchy kind of look to it.
Yeah.
Where it took the pattern out and then just left the stripe down the back with the clown head.
Actually, it's funny. Actually, we were talking about that. That has been one incomplete for ourselves that we have completely tried to avoid. That blade has been something we've tried to avoid at all costs. Just personally, we just don't like the streamline of it. It kind of reduces the pattern so extremely. I think it has its place. It's just we want that wow factor.
I actually added blade to my collection, not knowing that it was technically not a Kodam or a Domomorph. And I added it thinking it was going to be just like inchy or whatever. And then I started reading more into it. And then obviously everything's divided in the community. Some people say that it is a morph, and some people say it's polygenic and blah, blah, blah. And then you end up doing your own research and you're like, well, if you look at the offsprings, it's technically polygenic. So it's line bred. That's 100% line bred. There's nothing around it. So I think at this point, I treat blade as normal. And it is what it is. I think there's some people on Morph Market that when they list blade, they in the description will say blade is a bloodline, not a morph.
Right.
But they still put it in there because they have to, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's just like the BALLZ ball pythons, right? Like you have to say it because it is what it is. So you have to inform the people, but it doesn't mean anything different. It's just a bigger ball python that lays more eggs, possibly, maybe. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And then even that, it's like, if you're selling it as a baby, are you even?
Yeah. Are you 100% sure? Yeah, exactly.
That is both. Yep.
That happens with ball python and bearded dragons too. Like there used to be a German giant line, which was like over 30 inches, and people were breeding them out of existence with regular size bearded dragons. And essentially they were hoping that they would make the regular size bearded dragons bigger, but because the German giant line was so thin, they couldn't find that many German giants to breed to the half German giants that they produced. So they ended up breeding it back to the smaller ones. And all we ended up with was some slightly bigger regular bearded dragons and no German giants. So People kind of ruined that, but you couldn't even tell from the beginning which one was a German giant because they even came out of the egg looking the same.
That's wild.
Just the size, yeah.
That's wild. Look, Jose still stuck on the best watermelon in your life.
Hey, no, it was good though. I ain't even gonna lie. Man, this fly, I'm gonna tear this fly up, man. This dude has been in here messing with me this whole time. I'm like, get the hell away from me.
We were in church this morning. There was like 4 or 5 flies just flying around, and the pastor just kept swatting at it. I'm like, he's gonna start praying against it at this point. Because this thing it was just flying. It was like 3 or 4 flying around the room.
When I see it land, I'm trying to kill it.
Oh my gosh, man!
Hey, talk about ADHD. I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
So we're closing in on 2 hours.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time, man.
Of
this
course,
Sunday.
yeah.
We actually, like we tell everyone, we will want to actually have you back on after this entire season has concluded, so we can probably go through some of your holdbacks on some of your projects that you're working, really hard at that point. Some of, let's say, some of the failures, some of the success, at that point of what's going on as far as with QB tails and scales, and learn more about the direction of your business viewpoints on certain things going on in the industry and hobby. We could take this podcast so many different directions and be another couple hours of talking to you. So we definitely want to have you back on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Appreciate you, man.
Cool.
Definitely appreciate you.
I only got one tip for everybody, and I had to find this out the hard way. Make sure you sex your animals when you get them.
Oh
yeah, I had to find that out too. I've seen that video.
I had to learn the hard way, man. I was like, I just spent like $1,600 on these snakes to find out they were freaking males, man.
Both of them was? Oh yeah,
both
you did.
Of them.
Oh my god.
Now he did me right. He sent me a female that was visual desert ghost at the end of the day, but she was a hatchling. So I was like, dang, I was pissed.
Yeah, you went through it, man. You straight went through it.
I got lied about genetics. I mean, I'm only 3 years in breeding ball pythons. I've been getting hammered, man. Lied about genetics.
That juju over there. All you got to do with one.
You got to think when you got in, there's a lot of new people that got in or probably just starting, and the boom hit. So then they're like, I guess this is what it is, okay? And they're not even really knowing how to apply the sex a little bit.
Yeah,
and use that.
That was one thing for me.
That's right.
It was like, that's the one thing I was like, do I want to chance it when I sell somebody something by, popping the snake, or do I want to just go ahead and probe it? It's easier, in my opinion.
Yep.
So why not just probe it? And I think anyone that chooses to pop instead of probe is just setting themselves up for failure. Because I've popped some snakes before, perfectly fine, and then I go to another one, pop it, it's a female. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just probe it. It's a male.
I think it's put that information out like you're doing right now. We've done it too. I think it gives people a better kind of platform to kind of make a decision on whether they want to pop or probe. Personally, because I've heard all the horror story. Oh, probing is dangerous, and again, shed some light on it. We've had 0 issues probing.
Zero.
The appropriate size probe. We haven't had any infections, any issues whatsoever. They say you can puncture a hemipene. We haven't had any issues at all, and it's been 100% accurate. Popping.
I mean, like to puncture it, that means that you're trying to push.
Yeah, you're shoving it in there.
Oh yeah.
Why are you trying to? Once you feel it stop, don't go anymore. Don't be like, I need to pull it more. Maybe it is.
But that's one of the things that. Yeah, and again, if you're good at popping, do what you're going to do. I'm just saying for us, obviously for QB the same way. Yeah. I'm going to probe, and being new, I feel very comfortable. The first time I didn't, because I was listening to everyone. And I said, oh man, this is easy. And then that's just how we do it now, moving forward.
Yeah, what I do is I actually I kind of just put it in there and let the snake kind of wander around my hand, and it'll kind of. Because their muscles are moving, it kind of just goes in by itself, and you'll know if it's a male or a female at that point.
I think nerves kind of are on the table too. Because at first, I mean, I had to put the snake in a small snake bag, and I don't do any of that. I just grab them,
pick it up, shove it in there. The male, we're good. Let's go.
no issues whatsoever.
And I think there's the other thing is there's a lot of videos out there where people, because of being in front of the camera, they'll pop it just so they can show everybody. And people realize that that's the way most people are, I guess, the way they see most people sexing the snake. Then they try themselves injuring the snake or not even popping them the right way. And that's where a lot of things where you get all these horror stories or you get all these people selling mixed sex snakes and everything. And you're just like, you could have just gone the simple route.
Yeah.
Got a probe kit on Amazon for $15 and you're good.
We got a backup kit and we do it the same. So when we do a what's in the box series. So in the series, we don't
I do one too.
We're not selling them, theoretically speaking, in the video. We get hit up about, hey, is this still available? Yeah. But on camera, we may bring it up. We may pop it on camera and say whether it's a male or female. But before it goes on Morph Market or someone contacts us and say, hey, I want this. Yeah, we probe.
Yeah.
I
told Will, I'll pop them and I'll put them in my little case and be like, okay, this is male, female. But before I let it go, I'm probing.
Yeah. I'll take the probe kit to the reptile expos.
I bet.
I'll go there. If I buy something, I'm probing it. If I'm selling something, I'll probe it in front of the person. That way they know it is a male or a female. That way they're not coming back later and saying, this is what you sold me. No, I showed you right then and there. Like, that's it. You can't come back now.
Hey, no, you know what? You know what's good for this?
Where's he going?
Shameless plug. You could put it right in the bag with the red line shipping.
Oh yeah.
Bam.
Oh yeah.
Look who's on there. Look at that. We got flawless crescent geckos.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
I even got my Wiz sticker.
Red line, man.
And man, this bag is dope. You can put it right in there.
Yeah, they got that little spot
right in there.
The little Velcro and all that little tool pouch.
The bottom. You can hold your water in there. Put that whole kit in there.
No,
I take it in my little lunch bag too. That's where I put it. Put it in my lunch bag. I mean, the lunch bag's big enough to carry the water, the greens for the dragons, and everything else I need. So I might as well put the pro kit in there too. They ain't hurting nothing.
And look, we got to bring you back on. We got to talk about the vending experience, how you put it up, and all of that. So we kind of just scratched the surface. You know, I could definitely see another lengthy interview with you.
Yeah.
So we put everything up. But I appreciate everybody coming on and hanging out with us. Now it's dinner time on Sunday. So hopefully everybody, I know, right? Hopefully everybody really, really enjoyed it. And we're going to be back up again in 2 more weeks. Who we have in 2 weeks, Darren? You know? He's like, oh, I got to double check.
Double check, because it was...
Because I know K&D is going to be October.
Yep.
So it'll be right after. We're doing the Southeast Reptile Expo, so we'll be.
Yeah, I was trying to make myself go down there, but
that's a little trip.
It's a trip, man, just to see some people.
Oh yeah. Well, let us know if you stop by, man.
I can't buy, so I can't. I'm not even. It's hard for me to say I'm not going to buy something and then go. I'd rather just not go.
Yeah, because you're going to buy something. I understand. I get it 1,000%. But we hope we see you out there anyway, spending money or not. I hope we see you at the show, man. We're going to definitely be down there with the flawless crested geckos. And we got a couple snake pickups actually going on down there as well. But definitely appreciate you and your time, man.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you guys.
And I'm anticipating anxiously having part 2 with you, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Congratulations on the kid.
Oh yeah,
thanks. Are you
the
guys
human baby? Yeah.
Are you guys on the? Are you guys in the bro Facebook group?
No,
I didn't even know about that.
There's
wait. Are you talking about Black Reptile?
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Black Reptile owners.
With Bob. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just checking.
Oh yeah, definitely in there.
Gotta keep it in there, you know.
You know it. You know it. Well, hopefully everybody enjoyed their Sunday. And hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. Definitely, once again, one more time, let them know everywhere they can find you at.
So it's QB's Tails and Scales everywhere. My Instagram tag is QBS Tails, the letter N, Scales. That's the same thing for TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and my website. It's spelled out the exact same way. But I don't have much going on right now in terms of stuff for sale because I'm kind of dwindling down, trying to prepare for a baby human baby. But you can still check out my YouTube and everything. I post 2 videos a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, every single week. I try not to miss some. I have missed some before, but I'm pretty adamant on making sure I post some videos out every week.
Tell me your full name.
My name is Abdiel Perez, and I always thought it had a meaning, right? But I ended up finding out later in life that it was just my dad naming me after a friend that he had. And they're not even like best friends or nothing. So it was like, but I met the guy and he seemed pretty cool. And I was like, but like I've never heard of him before. Like that's
right.
So, but I like my name now. I can't complain about it.
It's unique.
So,
it's unique.
Yeah, appreciate it.
That's what's up. But everybody, go ahead, go out, get you some good food, and spend some good time with the family.
Yeah.
And enjoy your Sunday.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Later.
Like,
Hey.